Welcome to the EW Podcast. I'm your host, Eric White. In today's episode, I chat with Koerri Elijah. Koerri is a digital content creator from Kenosha, Wisconsin. He came to national attention during the Kenosha riots of 2020, following the Jacob Blake police shooting. He received this attention because of his coverage of what was happening on the ground in Kenosha. His video streams of the rioting became a reliable source of information for people in Kenosha, the United States, and likely even around the world. In this episode, Koerri and I discussed the events of Kenosha and how they elevated his platform, the importance of being true to and thinking for yourself, holding unpopular opinions, how Koerri has difficult conversations, consuming information and coming to your own conclusion, BLM, Antifa, and the future of journalism, among other topics. If you'd like to learn more about Koerri or follow him online, I've provided relevant links in the show notes, including links to him on social media, his podcasts, website, and a link to an article about his coverage of the Kenosha riots. I really enjoyed this conversation with Koerri, and I hope you do too. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Koerri Elijah. All right, I'm here with Koerri Elijah. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was excited to have you on after getting to be a fly on the wall for the Unity Now podcast interview that you did. And I just thought it would be fun to have you on my show and expand on that a little bit, that conversation a little bit.
For sure. Yeah. Like I said, thanks for having me. And it was a fun conversation that we had. So I'm glad happy to expand on it.
Nice. I'm going to give you an intro the best that I can before this podcast plays, but maybe in your own words, you can just kick us off with who you are and maybe detail the events that led to your platform kind of being elevated.
Yeah, so I'm publicly known as Koerri Elijah. That's my real name, but that's how I'm publicly known as well. Some people create, different monikers or whatever, but I am who I say I am. So I'm just, like I tell people, just a regular guy that loves content creation, and I've always kind of been involved in creating content in like streaming and stuff like that, and kind of like the new age form of media, whether it be alternative media or even just stylistically the new forms of media. I've always been involved with that, so I'm really just a guy that enjoys creating, but that also loves finding out the truth and seeing new things and engaging thought-provoking situations and content. So I'm a podcaster as well. Yeah. And that's about it. People really kind of know me now, mostly for the troubling situation that happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I'm born and raised here in Kenosha. So when the situation happened initially with George Floyd, we had protests here that gave me it elevated my platform to a degree where people now kind of looked for me in these situations. No one really foresaw the Jacob Blake situation taking place. But when it did happen, I was kind of the person that people sought out. So I went out and did live streaming like I did during the George Floyd situation, just documenting everything that's going on, giving people a firsthand account of what's really happening. We found with the George Floyd situation, because that was the first time there was really a huge volatile situation with protests that turned into, in that situation, I'd say a soft riot, because the amount of damage it was, in the grand scheme of things, it was minuscule. But that was the first time we had experienced anything like that. And the way I highlighted that situation and kind of dispelled a lot of the disinformation that was going out, that was really just sowing fear in everyone. I think it gave everyone kind of a sense of relief. So they looked to me during the Jacob Blake situation. I feel for the same thing, but the situation just escalated to a massive level, on a global scale, where eyes started to peer in from all over the globe, which really lifted my platform and has got me to a point where now we're continuing to do the same things, but we're starting to branch off. My podcast, coincidentally, was elevated as well with that. So I'm trying to utilize my platform to continue to help the community. So I've been holding discussions with members of the community. Now I do a video talk series with a local creative space here where we highlight artists. With my podcast now, I had on candidates that were running for the local elections coming forward. We're going to have some judges that are going to be having the election coming up soon. We're going to have them all of the candidates and discussing their platforms with them. So I'm really just here now doing what I was doing on the street. Of course, last night there was something that happened, so I had to run out of the office and get down there and check things out. But then also behind the scenes, we're also building a platform where we can continue to do the same thing in a way, bring that trust that the people have to a platform and format media in a new way, but also kind of combine the old style of media with new media to give people what they want and provide a platform that people truly can trust. So that's what I'm building behind the scenes. And also, who I am.
Nice, man. I like what you said about, I'm curious about what you said about being sought out. So is that local people in Kenosha had already identified you as someone who was creating news content that they could rely on to be unbiased, and therefore they were looking to your feeds to see what you were posting? Is that what you mean by sought out?
Yeah, and it still continues on today, even with the situations here. We're still dealing with the situation with Jacob Blake and Kyle Rittenhouse. So we have two very high profile, very volatile situations, I guess you could say, that are still kind of lingering in the background. A lot of people are still kind of on edge with that. So when small little things happen, even like the most minuscule thing could go on, people reach out to me. But all of that started, like I was saying, before even the Jacob Blake situation. It was really that George Floyd situation that kind of highlighted my platform in a way as a non-biased platform. And that's why it might have seemed, like incredibly irregular to people from the outside looking in during the situation with Jacob Blake, how the community was all kind of rallying around me. I noticed that dealing with a lot of the mainstream media, they were just flabbergasted. Like who are you? Like, why do all of the people care about you? It's like, it doesn't matter what aisle of, what side of the political aisle they're on. Any types of people, all different walks of life, everybody seems to love you. Like, how does that work like that? Mm-hmm. And I just told them, it's like, I literally just showed what was happening and didn't force my opinion down anyone's throat. Mm-hmm. It's just, this is what's happening. Maybe I would say like, hey, I don't know if that's right or not, always using my moral compass, but not like invoking my personal opinion, So I think people just gravitate towards people being real, and people being genuine. And they noticed that during the George Floyd situation that got really, really heated, but not nearly as bad as things with the Jacob Blake situation. But, when it came down to a huge situation, people, were really relying on me. So it's nice to see that, with small things and big things, the community has my back.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's huge, man. And that's something I do want to get into at some point, the importance of like a local community and working locally, right? Your goals are not to change the world. You're just worried about your town and where you live, it seems like, based on your work and what I've seen from you, right?
Yeah, I mean that's you can only really control what's within reach, you know.
Hmm.
And I suppose you could say with the internet you can reach the world. But my outlook is I'd like to. I mean, you can't tell someone else how to fix how to fix their house if your house isn't clean itself, you know. So I'm really just trying to have people all around in the community kind of, feel that same sentiment and really clean things up here and change things for the better so we can help the world because it seems like the global issues are the issues that really get highlighted all of the time, even on a local level. It always seems to be those global issues that are always pushed to the forefront, and that's where most of the resources go. But then all of the local issues, like things like homelessness and you know, hungry children and things like that, always get pushed to the wayside. So there's a lot of things that we can do if we just focus on ourselves that can really fix the world, because if everyone starts zeroing in on their small communities and their communities start expanding and growing, then the neighboring communities will start seeing each other. They'll start, rubbing shoulders a little bit more. People will be a little bit more comfortable, and things will, grow out. I mean, at least in theory, that's my theory. I hope that's what would happen, but we have to try it to see.
Yeah.
We haven't. You got to at least give it a shot.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like if you look at the world as like a house or something, the foundation is that local community, right? Like the top of the house, the roof might be looking at things from a global perspective, but it all sits on foundation of local communities everywhere around the world. And I love that focus on the local community and using it as a way to improve other areas, just by inspiring or motivating other areas that are nearby and hoping that kind of branches out. I feel like that's a much better approach than trying to do things top down.
Yeah, and I mean, we've tried the trickle down thing forever, and they tried in all facets of everything. And it always seems to have the same outcome. It sounds good. You feel like it would work, but it doesn't really always end up working that way. It's like the Plinko game where you would almost think it would go one way, but it might always just fall into that same slot every time, and that's
Hmm.
just kind of how it goes. So maybe if we push upwards and going back to the foundation, if you're missing, 7 bricks from a foundation, it might be okay. It might look good, but over time, the 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 floor is gonna collapse more than likely, and then the whole house is gonna cave in. So
Right. Or you get a storm like Jacob Blake and the storm pushes the whole thing over, right?
you're right, exactly. You got
Yeah.
to have that sturdy foundation.
Yeah. So before the George Floyd killing and the protests that ensued after that, were you doing a similar thing then? Were you documenting local news, or was this something that was kind of spurred on by what you were seeing?
So periodically, so the president had come here in 2016. I had done a similar thing. I went out. There literally was 2 sides of the street. You were either on this side or that side. Each side had their own ideology. So I kind of was just kind of going back and forth, talking to people in a situation like that. Also, in the past, I've done a lot of work. There's been there was, what was it, 2013, there was a March of Monsanto here that I documented, and then other things that kind of have happened along the way. Ordinances to try to get cannabis legalized and a bunch of stuff like that. So I've kind of been in and out a little bit. Recently, I've kind of hunkered down a little bit more to kind of solidify the platform that I have, and kind of zero in on exactly what I'm trying to do. Because I mean, I like other things too.
Hmm.
I travel and do panel hostings and stuff at Comic Cons and stuff like that. So
Sweet.
I always want to I always want to do things that I'm passionate about, and that I love, which can make a brand an interesting thing. But now I can say I suppose I'm fortunate enough that people really like my brand for the individual in a way. So it makes it a little easier for the content that I produce. I've learned nowadays that I can do all of my community highlighting things, but then also make other content, and people will continue to look at me the same way and not think I'm silly or, things like that. So I'm fortunate in that regard, and that also motivates me more to get out there and continue to do the things that I love. So.
Yeah. And who knows how those might overlap in the future, right? Who knows? Maybe one day there'll be a Kenosha Comic-Con or something that you can, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? The thing that
help facilitate, like,
yeah, exactly.
everybody, they're like, everyone has things that they love, and that's one thing that I always want people to remember. And that's why I don't hide it from anyone. And, I put it out there because like, at the end of the day, if you don't like me because of my politics, you may like me because my favorite superhero is the Flash, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then there we have common ground, and there's more than enough content in that culture, whether it be, they call it like nerd culture, or say you love movies, say you love history, whatever it may be. There's enough content in everything that people love to find common ground with people that you don't agree with politically, where you can still develop friendships and then make it easier to agree to disagree,
Yeah.
So I want everybody to always do the things that they love, because that's how you have a wide array of friends. You're not going to meet different people if you only do the same exact stuff. You're going to end up, being clones or whatnot, and remain in echo chambers. So, go towards the things you love too, because it'll help expand your mind in ways. And then also you can use those things in politics in a way too, to make analogies, or to even have a thought process from things that you've experienced in different formats, so.
Yeah, I love that, man. And that really resonates with me because like this podcast, I went through a depression and was suicidal for like 10 years, was drinking very heavily. And so coming out of that, I was like, holy shit, I need to share what I'm learning with people. And so I started a podcast. It was a mental health podcast. And then this year I was like, why am I just doing mental health? I am interested in history. I'm interested in society. And so this has been a great year for me once I expanded that and started having discussions that covered my interests and weren't just about one thing. And, I love what you're saying about expanding your thought processes and using other interests to change the way you think. And that's definitely been something I've found to be true this year. And just, having discussions with a history professor or, it's all beneficial. But how are the politics there in Kenosha? Is there a pretty even split of Democrats and Republicans? How does that break down?
So, like, the easiest way to say it is, I'll say it this way. So there is an area of Kenosha where the biggest houses are, and it's on the lake, right on Lake Michigan. It's called Carroll Beach. There was a gentleman named, famous world-renowned person, named Al Capone, that had a home there. So that's how politics are. if that kind of explains that for you in the nicest way.
So it's grimy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because my perspective has kind of, well, at least my thought on everything here has kind of been validated in a way just by the, some of the conversations that I've had, some of the places that I've been able to enter now because of everything that's taken place. So yeah, it seems about that way. A lot of people want me to run for political office, which is, in my opinion, I think it's kind of funny just based off of everything, because like I don't really have a clear stance. I don't have like a public record of my policy or anything, on the record, but people want me to run for office, which is cool. But it's also like, you should ask me some questions first.
But maybe it's people
But
know that you're unbiased and see value in that. I think that one thing that's happening in America is, the left and right have become so tribal that you have to, if you're on the right, you're for the right to bear arms. You're against abortion. There's no real evidence-based thinking on either side. It's just you subscribe to whatever the party is for or against, right? So having someone who's unbiased, I could see value in that.
right, and then but so so I don't play party politics, right? So, and I've made it vastly apparent. Like I tell people all the time, like I don't do the left right paradigm thing. I don't join teams. I don't even join organizations. But like people like so even people that you would think that approach you, right? So of course you would expect parties to do this, right? The political parties going to come at you, and then they're going to throw the party angle at you. But no, it's literally individuals with their own agendas that align with certain things, and then organizations, and then it's like it could be all different types of organizations, even organizations that you don't think are political. Are looking for people that they feel like can just come in and do what they need to do easily. So it's a cold game out here, honestly, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of people are looking for the power play. And I'm not, and to me it's really weird just in seeing all of this, like, up front and firsthand and in my face, because like I'm not looking to seek power, and I've made it known, like I say it all the time. I think people that seek power are kind of weird. Unless you're looking for the power because it's going to help, and it's not because of the power that you're looking for the position, but it's because you actually feel like it could genuinely help. But there's a lot of people that are just out here making power plays. And even though they do a really good job of cloaking it, I've seen a lot of masks come off, and it's interesting. It's interesting how people, and even like how people deal with people because of, I don't I don't know. I don't know if maybe they feel like they look at me a certain way, so they feel like, oh, this dude will do anything to come up or something. So I'm just gonna like say all of this like completely, I would say, in my opinion, nefarious things, and give me like ideas to do, like I don't know. I don't know. There's like it's wild out here, to say the least, man.
It's like basically what I hear you saying is that some people who approach you don't appreciate the fact that you are thinking for yourself and believe that you can be manipulated into some corner to achieve success, basically.
Yeah, that, or the worst thing, the even worse thing is people not recognizing that I do think for myself. Maybe they just haven't experienced enough content, and they saw a picture of me and they're like, "Oh, this is everybody. Why does everybody like this?" I'm just gonna say it. Everybody likes this miscellaneous black dude. I mean, who is this guy? No one around here knows him. He must not be anyone important. So we should be able to just get him to do whatever we want him to do for pennies on the dollar. And then they approach me that way. And then I'm like, I clearly present myself in a way where I'm like, even though I like to wear t-shirts and stuff like that, I'm not an idiot. And then things get weird, and I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. There's a lot of that goes on too. So it's been weird navigating, honestly, because I'm
Yeah.
I'm a nice guy, and I like to deal with people. And again, like I really want to help the community, and a lot of businesses have been damaged. So it's like whatever I can do to help some of the businesses out, like I will do it and stuff. But then you get in some of these rooms, and as you may know, there's a lot of money going around too. Like there's tons of money for relief and things like this, so people are trying to get money. There's a lot of property projects that have popped up now that people that own pretty much all of the places that were damaged. Some of them happen to be by one individual, now are going to have these multi-million-dollar new, there's a lot of things that have been, I don't know, a lot of things that have been going on that kind of make you think and stuff. But that's why we're out here. We're going to keep on talking about everything that's going on, highlighting stuff, and not be quiet and not allow anybody to have us in their pocket.
Yeah. So is that kind of your mission right now, is to expose these nefarious players that are trying to take advantage of a bad situation?
So it's not even that. Honestly, my whole thing is I'm not here to expose anyone, but if I see something, I just talk about stuff and I just keep it real. So it's like, if you guys don't think that's weird, then I suppose, I guess you don't think it's weird, but this is what's happening, and if you're all right with it, then I guess it's all right,
Yeah.
but because what can I really do other than talk about it? I am just, I am but one man, and I'm not rich. If I was a billionaire or something, then it would be different. I have a family, so I'm not necessarily trying to, like, again, Al Capone had a mansion in Carroll Beach and it's still there. And he's, been gone for a long time. So, so I'm living life as carefully as possible, still going into dangerous zones if need be. But I'm still going to remain myself. Like, I'm not looking for a fight. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think, I saw a clip of you on CNN, I think it was, where the reporter asked you about Trump visiting Kenosha. Do you remember that? And I think at that time, if I'm remembering correctly, there was a lot of people on the left who were angry about Trump visiting. Is that correct? They didn't want him to come.
Right.
But I loved how you just kind of, you didn't. Someone would probably assume that you are on the left just looking at you because you're a black man from Kenosha. Like,
yeah, I'm riding a skateboard.
Yeah.
Got tie-dye t-shirt on and stuff. Yeah, man. That's it. Yeah. So, and like, in some regards I am, but then also in some regards I may be, I guess you would say, conservative, if that's even what you would say. Like, I don't know. All of these terms have been kind of molded into some BS, and that's, again, why I don't do labels.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm being like I don't know, not wanting to pay a bunch of money in taxes to a system that, like, wages war all over the world and doesn't help the poor people. Like, I don't see how that necessarily, how's that conserving anything? Where's the conservation? I guess I'm conserving my money because they're not taking it, but it's I don't know.
Yeah, that
just,
that in particular has gotten really twisted because typically, let me just finish my thought first before we go down that road. So I brought up the reporter because the popular line was to be angry about Trump coming and to not want him there. But you said in the CNN interview, you were like, no, I think he should be here. He's the leader. He needs to be here. And
that's the president.
Yeah.
Everybody from around the world is here. Why isn't he?
Have you always been able to stand your ground like that? Is that something that's characterized you throughout your life, or like how did you develop that ability to just be yourself so much?
You have to be. You don't have a choice but to be yourself. And then I suppose, I have to give credit to my grandmother who raised me. She was no punk. She didn't pull punches. She moved us to an area where we were the only black people there in the area for years, probably like a decade before there was another black family that moved in. And this was in the 90s. So just to throw that out there. And then she was also in a same-sex marriage, and it's a situation where it's incredibly volatile, and I never seen her not one time have anyone ever like back her down, you know? Like she always stood her ground. There was nothing you could do or say, and she was the nicest person. So as long as you didn't cross her, then everything was cool, you know? And I mean, I guess just growing up and seeing her, you know, overcome so much and deal with so much, and then always kind of keep a level head throughout it all, I just kind of developed that in a way myself. And then also to a certain degree, like you can only care so much about stuff too, you know? So I guess part of it also is as bad as it may sound, I don't care that much about situations. Like there's so much that goes into this, right? If I get into an altercation with someone, you know, the worst case scenario is someone dies, you know? But that is always a factor, even though people may think it isn't. Like, if even in argument, the worst case scenario is always going to be someone could potentially die, you know? So I just always go in thinking about that. I want to live 500 years. So, you know, like whatever I can do to keep this going, if I can just not have confrontation or just recognize like it's not this serious at the end of the day because we're just having a disagreement, then I just, you know, I navigate that way. But then also, you know, to a certain extent, depending on the situation, I'm not going to allow someone to, I don't know, show fear in me or anything like that. Like I'm not going to back down from something, but then also I can recognize situations. So,
Yeah. It's a balance of being aware of safety, but also sticking to your morals and your beliefs. You said, do you typically avoid confrontation? Like I imagine someone like yourself who likes to think for themselves and get to the truth of matters probably find yourself on holding unpopular views occasionally. Is it hard to have those discussions for you with people maybe in your friend group or family?
No, it's not. I enjoy having discussions because I know why I feel the way I feel. I don't feel the way I feel because of someone else. I feel the way I feel because of my own thoughts. So it's not hard at all. If you want to talk to me about it, we can have a discussion. And even if we don't agree at the end, like I'm not going to be upset. It's just like I feel the way I feel because of this, and this, and this, and this. If that's, you know, if that upsets you, then it is what it is.
I'm not
going to hurt you or anything. So
yeah. How do you get through those conversations? Is it just like, that's one thing I've been very interested in this year is having difficult discussions, because I had some discussions with friends sometime this summer that didn't go very well. We were talking about police and certain friends were very positive that the police killings were strictly a race issue. And I was trying to make the point that maybe it's more about the training and not strictly about race. And, you know, that conversation didn't get anywhere. There was no changing of beliefs. There was no meeting each other in the middle. I kind of just left that conversation feeling exhausted. Is that a similar thing that happens to you, or do you find that you're able to actually help people revise their beliefs?
So, I mean, I suppose there has been situations where it's like you're not going to get through to this person. Generally, it's when people are intoxicated, though, when I'm like, there's no way that you can break this down. It's really about trying to connect with people and understanding where they're coming from to be able to build an argument. You know, a lot of people have their own set argument, but they don't consider who they're talking to. They just have their talking points that they, you know, have prepared. And sometimes they're not necessarily prepared talking points. They even just come in with their beliefs, but they're not being empathetic to what the other person may feel or believe, right? So I always try to come at people at an angle that I feel like they would grasp in a way, opposed to just going like a lot, you know, people always kind of go head first with like one thing you hear will say on one side is like they'll throw out the black on black crime statistics, and then on the other side will say they will throw out like the 13th Amendment thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Neither side really unpacking the counter argument at least generally, when what I notice is neither side really unpacks the other argument to really have a sound stance on their belief. So whenever I engage people, say with these stances, and I'm not here to like tell people they're wrong, and I always tell them, I just always say, hey, the reason why the person you're talking to right now is getting visibly upset is because this scenario that you're bringing up, you haven't thought about how they may react to it, or also a counter argument to it. You're just saying it, and then they're trying to refute it, but you're not even unpacking anything that they're saying. You're just stuck in what you feel the point is, and you're not being empathetic to the other person or how they feel about the situation. So
Yeah, I definitely am guilty of that, of just being like thinking that my side was so obvious and not realizing that they thought their side was so obvious too. It's like everyone, and in those circumstances, people have the best intentions. Like every people that get into those disagreements or those arguments, they both want to get to the truth of the matter. That's why they have an opinion on it, because they want to figure it out in one way or another. So yeah, it's tough. It can be really hard to, I think, take a step back and, like you said, unpack the other side and really acknowledge it, right? Humanize what they're saying.
right, because like at the end of the day, if someone feels this strongly about something, there has to be a reason. So what is the reason that would make someone feel this strongly about it, right? There has to be a reason. A lot of these ideologies people feel incredibly strong about, right? Even we'll even say this, like I'm a black person, right? I am clearly black. So there's nothing that I could do to navigate not as a black person. I am, I've been coded as black in the United States. If I went somewhere else, I could probably, be labeled something different because there wasn't the whole black white thing that there was going on like in the United States. But since I deal with that, like I understand everything that they're saying, but then also I also consider the opposite side. Like there's situations that like undoubtedly there's nothing that I can do about it, that I'm going to deal with it. But at the end of the day, there always is going to be a reason why these things are happening, right? And it's going to be somewhere in the middle. There's going to be a mixture of,
Yep.
My opinion and your opinion. And at the end of the day, a lot of it is, it's really something that we both can agree to disagree on, or something that we'll agree that we can change and it'll make everything better for everyone. And it wasn't really something that we couldn't get over. But then there's all of the outside influences that have kind of, in a way, I mean, in my opinion, kind of refined everything that has gone down and like manipulated the situation where we're in like almost a situation where it's almost a lose-lose because a lot of the language that's being used, I don't know if, like, I'm sure you know what doublespeak is and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So like a lot of that has been layered into a lot of everything that's going on. So it's really interesting to see where things go, because and that's why in the point of me saying this is I really don't care that much, right? As a black person that has to deal with black issues, I don't know, like I've dealt with all different forms of racism in my life, right? But at the end of the day, like I care, but I don't care to the point where I'm gonna like be irrational. So what is it about the information that people are receiving, where even people that aren't black will care more than someone that is black, and it doesn't even necessarily affect them, right?
Yeah.
What is it about the information they're receiving? And that's why I was saying it seems like the point that we're at right now is so refined and fine-tuned and almost orchestrated in a way and guided to this point where we're almost at a point of no return, because it's like all of the doublespeak that's layered, and then the point of even labeling people black and white, and then having all of these, all of these calculated gray areas in a way, and these scenarios that are so gray and themselves, like the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, where it gets labeled certain ways, where they're sowing division because they're labeling him a hero, when they could just say young man defends himself, and like you could argue if he defended himself or not, but at least you won't make people upset by calling him a hero, because he only saved himself. And last time I checked, heroes save other people and would risk their own life to save someone else,
Yeah.
So it's so little things like that just continue to fan the flames. And it's scenarios that, I mean, what can you really do at a certain point? Like, it's already happened, so there's no turning back.
Yeah.
How do you move forward?
Maybe we can stick on the Kyle Rittenhouse thing a little bit to give what we're talking about some texture, because you're talking about doublespeak and things like that, and talking about the messaging. And yeah, I agree that calling him a hero is very problematic. But then you have the other side calling him a white supremacist, and
which is also
problematic. And there's no one really in the middle, right? There's no one that's saying what you said, that he was a white guy who came there and was defending himself. And, we need to figure out, let the courts figure out if it was murder or not, right? There's no one that's taking that middle stance.
Right, exactly. It's if you really feel like he was defending himself, then we're looking for self-defense. But I don't see why labeling someone if you're claiming that he's defending himself, why label him a hero? We want him to win. And then also the city just got burned up, so we don't want it to happen again, so why poke the bear? We can't say that they don't think about headlines before they put headlines out. We can't say that, people don't think about messaging before they put out messaging. The Black Lives Matter organization wouldn't be called Black Lives Matter if they didn't recognize that by calling the organization Black Lives Matter, it gives them a trump card.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel? How do you feel about that?
It's strategic. In my opinion, it's smart, but it's also kind of nefarious. It's not even kind of nefarious. It is nefarious because you know what you're doing. But I mean, that's the corporate model, right? You do what's going to drive success. And that's how America has been operated. So you can't even really blame them, for maximizing success, because it puts people in a position where it's like, what do you mean you don't think Black Lives Matter?
Right.
And it's like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about an organization, but it gets caught up, so. And regardless of how you feel about the organization, the fact that they would do that because they know that it puts people in a situation where you can't say anything wrong about them, even if they do things that are negative. That's, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you just have an organization that's like, People for Black Lives, or, something that's like clearly an organization, not a statement,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, the Antifa comes to mind as well, where you have an organization that claims to be anti-fascist. And if you don't like Antifa or what they're doing, then therefore you are a fascist, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then they use fascist tactics. And it's like, it's kind of weird how you claim to be anti-fascist, but you, in a way, almost seem to be fascist. I mean, you're getting a lot of money from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the money coming from? If you're against fascism, money comes from businesses.
Mm. Or financiers.
Mom and pop shops aren't really but they get money generally from corporations. They're
right.
in and out of boards, and that's the money comes from the corporations. People get money from the corporations, or stocks or whatever, but who really gets rich off stocks like that, you know?
How do you consume information? Like clearly you have an ability to resist messaging, or to at least be critical of messaging and not just drink it up. And, I guess before you answer, I'm definitely guilty of having drank the Kool-Aid earlier this year and not thinking super critically about Black Lives Matter or what was going on in the wake of the George Floyd killing. Like here in San Diego, me and my girlfriend went to several protests with the Black Lives Matter organization, and there was, and I don't regret it. It's not like I regret going out and protesting what I believe to be abuse of power by the police, but there was an instance that I'll never forget. At the last day of protesting that we went to, we were walking down the street, and this white girl, she must have been like 19 or 20 years old, was walking in front of us, and there was a police officer standing in the street blocking traffic so that we could walk without any cars coming through. And she's like yelling at the police officer, like, fuck you, you fucking cop. Like, you should be so ashamed. Get a new job. Your children are going to hate you. And I was like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. I was here to protest what I believe to be the abuse of power. I'm not here to protest this, Johnny Blue over here who's just doing his job and standing there peacefully.
Dude.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So how do you consume information and get yourself to a place where you can think critically about these things before, jumping in with both feet?
So the easiest way to say it is distrust. It's unfortunate, but I don't really trust much that goes out. I like to verify things. If I can't claim to have seen it myself, there's no way that I could be like, that's what happened. So that's kind of what drives my thought process. It's like, okay, I'm interested in the situation. I want to know as much as I can about the situation. And then also I have a fairly good long-term memory. So when things happen, I don't generally forget about them. So I consume information. It goes into the memory bank. And once it's in the memory bank, then I'm able to kind of go through the Rolodex of information that I have. Whenever I encounter a new situation, I kind of replay as much as the information that I have already that I can within as much time as I have to do it. And then I make a decision. If I have more time to kind of sit on something, I may kind of go back and forth before I make a decision. But that's why I tell people, like, if more information is presented to me, my position may change. It may even be something that I knew that may have slipped my mind, that may completely shift my stance on something. Mm-hmm. So,
are there names? Go ahead.
So just to briefly just say, like, I'm an INTJ. So my personality is like, I think all of the time. So coupling that with like a fairly good long-term memory and an interest for information is how I think, the way I think.
And just for context, that's the Myers-Briggs personality test, right? Yeah, the INTJ. Right. Are there any people that you trust in the media, or is it pretty much just blanket distrust?
There's people that I like, I suppose. I don't know any of these people, right? So I can't say I trust any of them because I don't know these people. And I'm sure they would probably turn on me the moment they could. Maybe if the opportunity was something valuable to them. So no, I can't say that I trust the media. I take information at face value. If someone presents me information and they don't show me anything, like say it's just like a pop-up, they read it off the teleprompter. I'll be like, okay, that's interesting. They're saying something like that happened. Say I talk to someone about it, I'll bring up like, hey, yeah, I heard something's going on with this situation, but I don't know exactly what the details are, Mm-hmm. But then I'll go into further detail, get on Google's or whatever it can be, try to find any kind of video evidence if it's something that would require that, and then if it's something like, say, scientific studies, I just say, hey, all right, well, I mean, if all of the scientists are saying this is what it is, then
accept it.
It might be something different, but
Yeah.
but maybe we should trust them. But I don't know. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, my experiences as a black man. So like I haven't forgotten that slavery is something that happened, and Tuskegee is something that happened.
Hmm.
Reconstruction is something that happened. Like all of this stuff like that involves the government directly has happened. So when it comes to trusting them, and then the media, which is in a way just an arm of the government or tries to control the government, and it's like I can't, I'm always apprehensive in a way because it's
Hmm.
just like, well, you said this, and then all of this wild stuff happened. So it is what it is.
Yeah. How do you view people like Andy No?
He's out on the streets.
Yeah.
He's reporting, he's reporting on what he sees. Every once in a while, I feel like he gives his opinion on scenarios, but he's asked for his opinion. So, if you're asked for your opinion, of course, you're going to do that. But I mean, I think what he does is good. It's crazy how he was treated, and like that whole situation with the milkshake stuff is nuts.
Yeah.
Honestly, and people ask me to like travel around, and that's why I'm like another reason why I would rather just deal with your area right now. I believe that's where he was from, and he was still targeted. But at least like if you have support where you are, if I go somewhere where I don't know anyone, anything could easily happen, right? And clearly that's the level of danger that you could be in if you go out in the streets and you even just try to live stream or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely respect that he goes out there, and I can't say that I necessarily follow his work all of the time, but I am familiar with him, and I would say I appreciate what he does.
Do you it seems like they're well, let me just collect my thoughts here. There's been a recent like, I don't know what you want to say, trend of journalists leaving mainstream media to venture out on their own and be independent on Substack, or Andy No doing his own thing. It seems like there's a trend away from mainstream media, even from people who are employed there. Do you see it the same way? Do you see things shifting to more of a reliance on independent journalists?
Yeah, because so for one, I mean, I'm sure they make good money. Maybe, I don't know,
I don't know either.
but I imagine they could make a lot more if they work for themselves. I mean, I could only really speak on my experience, and I mean, I'm doing okay. And I don't even really leave. I don't leave my city. Sometimes I go to areas in Wisconsin that are close, or Illinois or something like that. But for the most part, I stay where I am, and there's not always something really crazy going on, and I do all right. So, I
Hmm.
mean, I imagine people that are traveling and have followings that are way larger than mine, they can do quite all right. And if you've already built a platform and people know you from the MSM, and you move over and do your own independent thing, you have control, you have creative control. And then also those checks are going to be bigger, man. Like you're not going to be making ad content where you're basically doing all of the work anyways, and then only getting a sliver of the ad revenue. Like
Hmm.
all of the ad revenue that would come in would go to you, or donations, or whatever it may be, So it's really the move, because these platforms, they no longer have control really of the information. Like technology has gotten to the point where anybody can be a player in the media game if that's what they want to do. And it's really gotten to that point with pretty much anything. You want to be in any form of an artist? Do you want to be a movie director? Do you want to be a producer? Like whatever really you want to do, you can just do it yourself. And people are starting to recognize that more and more. And that's why I feel like this power play for the establishment has been has been so fierce, in my opinion.
What do you mean?
Because they want control. They want the control back, and they know that the control is slipping from their fingers.
What do you mean the power play?
Well, I mean, look at the players that they are vying to have control, and I'm just saying, in office, these political offices. Look at some of the people in Joe Biden's cabinet that he's potentially going to be bringing out. A lot of the people that I've been seeing, like the I forget her name, but she just left the board for Apple when she was helping to lobby for slave labor, I believe, in China. And now she's back and working with Joe Biden, trying to help him get the dollars up or whatever she's going to be doing with him. So, the same players, those are the power players. You're going to bring in the people that think slave labor is okay because it increases, revenue for corporations. Human beings aren't important. The power is important. We need to be able to wield the power and have control. We can't have the peons being able to, create their own destinies. We have to be able to mold everybody's destiny for them, and we need them all to be worker bees until they're expendable, and we don't need them anymore.
Yeah, it seems
so
like
they're trying to put the lid back on, the hydrant or whatever.
Pandora's box is already open, though. It's already opened. It seems like we're probably coming to a point where those two forces are going to meet. Because like we've been talking about this increase in independent journalism at the same time that the establishment is trying to really control the narrative and really get people to buy in to the bullshit they're selling. And it seems like the more that the scale is tipped towards the independent journalism, the closer we can get to, making everyone see that the emperor has no clothes. It seems like we need more people willing to do things like you or Andy No or, Andrew Sullivan or any of these people who have struck the independent route to present us facts in an unbiased way that help us think critically. Because right now everything is, pre-chewed for us. We get the catchy slogans ready to go. There's no nuance in a 30-minute television show or a news broadcast. So hopefully we get to that point where, the scale tips.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I think we will. People are starting to recognize, they don't want the same old, same old. I mean, I believe that's why Trump got elected the first time. Like that. I mean, things didn't necessarily go the way people wanted them to go, or maybe they did go the way people wanted them to go, or I don't know. The thing that I am kind of throughout this all, I'm kind of disappointed in. I'm not disappointed that Donald Trump lost the election. I'm disappointed that it besmirches the idea that someone that is not a politician should run for president. Because that seems to be that's the most important thing throughout it all, because we need people that aren't politicians to be literally they ran Joe Biden against him, and they created an atmosphere where people are just oh, we just need a regular politician to come and we know what's going to happen now.
Yeah,
we all
almost 50 years in politics, man. It's crazy.
It's going to be business as usual, and people let's remember how things work. People are, I don't know. We're going to have the veil over our eyes, and I'm just hoping we don't go to war. That's really my whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm still in that draft age range, so I'm not trying to deal with that.
No. Yeah, I agree there. But at the same time, it does maybe besmirch that idea a little bit, but then I don't know. There's people that give me hope. Like Andrew Yang is a great example of not career politician who I think has a legitimate future or potential for a future in politics, who would actually do some good for people. So maybe the fact that Trump cleared or blazed that trail will actually be good for people like Andrew Yang in the future. Well, I guess Reagan elected too. But.
So I would say let's hope, in my opinion. And I like Yang. I like Yang a lot. Honestly, if Yang would have got the nomination, I would have voted for Andrew Yang. So, I mean,
who'd you vote for?
That's where I stand.
Do you want to say?
No, I'm not going to say.
Okay.
But it's not who people think.
Okay.
And when I say it's not who people think, that goes to both sides. Legitimately, it's funny who I voted for, honestly, but it's not. I don't do the lesser of two evil things, and I don't do the left-right paradigm thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, there was some local stuff that I wanted to vote for, and I was like, I'm here. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
So.
Did you write in your own name? I won't press it anymore.
I don't know. I don't know if I did.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the first year that I did not vote for a Democrat. I didn't vote for Trump, but I'll just tell you, I did a vote pact. Did you hear about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, it was encouraging people to find a person from the other party in your state and both agree to not vote for your party. So I found a Republican, and he did not vote for Trump, and I did not vote for Biden. I voted for Jo Jorgensen, tried to help her get the 5%, but that did not work. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know why they don't involve, well, actually I do know why. I shouldn't even say that. They should involve third parties. It's completely, not even third parties. They should involve more than, excuse me, they should involve more than two parties. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to say third parties, because then they'll try to limit it to just three. They should involve more than just two parties. Mm-hmm. Anyone that people know of, Jo Jorgensen had you could say, I suppose, a legitimate platform, right? And if she were able to be highlighted like everyone else is being highlighted, then she probably would have, of course, got the 5%.
Yeah.
But we only hear two sets of ideals.
Yeah. It's ridiculous that you can be on the ballot but not invited to a debate. That makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And just because it was COVID this year, it's been happening forever. So I don't want to hear the COVID-19 excuse.
Yeah.
You wouldn't imagine how many COVID-19 excuses I've gotten. And then other things happen. It's dude, I thought it was COVID-19. What are you talking about? You just didn't want to be on camera? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We had Michael Shermer on the Unity Now podcast, and he made a good case for having four parties, for having a party that's far left, one that's more moderate left, moderate right, and a far right party, and kind of have them all present their ideas, and you get a more balanced plan whenever the person does get elected, because you've heard these extreme sides. I don't know. It's a interesting idea, but we need more parties for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. Honestly, it should just be whoever can make it, it's it shouldn't be solidified Republicans and Democrats. It's even if you're going to keep it two, it's which two can get the most momentum up into this point? And then it's oh snap, this election, it looks like it's the Green Party and the Libertarian Party going at it. I don't know, make it interesting.
Yeah.
We have technology, bro. We can, I don't know, they develop apps all the time. They could figure something out.
I agree. Yeah.
And make it more I don't know. And then also we need to make things more accessible without, I guess, tying us directly to technology, because that's kind of weird, but we need to utilize it more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we don't have situations like the stimulus check situation and,
yeah.
We need new ideas so people can do stuff like that.
Yeah. Agreed, man. Agreed. So I guess we'll start to wrap up here, but what do you have coming up? Is there anything you're working on that you want to plug or?
So right now, just a lot of work in the studio in the office here. My podcast, O Word with Koerri Elijah, we're going to be going hard here in 2021. So Make sure you subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or on YouTube or on the Facebook page. Coming up, we're going to be doing some interviews with the candidates for our local circuit court judge. So we have 4 candidates that we're going to be bringing in. We're going to do them individually, of course, but I'm going to take a block out of the week and highlight them all throughout the week so people will know the candidates for circuit court, because we need to know who our judges are. We need to know their ideals and things like that. So I thought it would be interesting. I kind of threw it out there and they all were game. So we're going to be doing that. So I'm going to continue to try to facilitate things like that. I've also been doing a lot of community and business spotlights here in Kenosha. So just like the Facebook page, I got a merch store too, KoerriElijah.com. You can go there, get updates of everything that I'm doing, whether it be like events that I have going on or stuff like that. And then there's links to the merch. We got some holiday merch that's coming out. So it's going to be really cool. A local artist is collaborating with me. So if you like cool, t-shirts and stuff like that too, we got that. It helps fund the operation. And that's the thing, as an independent, I don't even like to call myself an independent journalist. I just call myself like a digital content creator. But as an independent business person, I guess you could say, we have to fund these things. We love going out into the streets. We love disseminating information. We love being able to expose the truth of what's going on. And we love being able to continue to build a platform where people feel comfortable to come to disseminate information. So that's why we sell t-shirts and stuff. So I have to plug it. Local business collaborated with me. So it's like we're keeping it local and stuff like that. And that's the type of stuff that I'm trying to do and I'm trying to continue to build. So, hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. It was a great talk. And If you ever want to come on my podcast, I'd love to have you on as well.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, man. That would be awesome. 2021 for sure. And do you do a video game podcast too? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So we have the Play Legit podcast that I do as well. So all the gamers out there, I've been a digital content producer for playlegit.com.net since 2016. We have a best of 2020 event that we're going to be having going on in the next couple weeks here. And then the Play Legit podcast, season 3 launches 2021 as well. So, yep. So if you like gaming, we got that for you too. Like I said, we do it all. I like whatever I love. I'm trying to be involved with it.
Nice, man. Cool. Well, thanks, Koerri. I appreciate your time, man.
No problem, Eric.